My name is Maya Wallace. I was born in 1988 in Glasgow. I grew up initially with my mother and father, who were both social workers. After a few years, we moved to the west side of the city, where I lived with just my mom and my brother. My childhood was quite lonely at first, and I didn't have many friends. My social circle was very small. I spent my days at school, and after school, I would come home to just my mom and brother. One of the main things we did together was watch TV. It was a big part of my childhood. We didn't do many outdoor activities, especially not things you had to pay for. Instead, I would spend time making jewelry or playing with my dolls. I was very active in sports like gymnastics and athletics. I enjoyed many outings with my mom, like biking and baking. In the summer, I would stay with my grandparents in Ayrshire, and those were some of my happiest times. It was activity after activity. We went swimming every day, shopping in town, baking, which I loved because my grandmother is an amazing cook. Growing up, I didn't have any religious beliefs. My family didn't practice any religion. There was no Bible or Quran in the house. My wider family were mostly scientists, so my worldview was shaped more by science than faith. There were no discussions about God or religion, and I only found out much later from my mom that I had attended Sunday school as a child, though I have no memory of it. In high school, I took religious education, much to my teacher's surprise, because I wanted to learn more about religion. I didn't want to adopt any religion like Christianity or Sikhism. I just wanted answers to the questions I had since I was young. However, I didn't find those answers at school. The religious education was superficial and didn't make logical sense to me. I thought, if this is from God, why can't He explain it clearly? At the time, my school didn't teach about Islam because they didn't have a teacher qualified in that religion. I believed what the media told me, that Islam was barbaric and Muslims were crazy people who terrorized others. I never imagined I would ever become Muslim or even consider Islam seriously. I also had very little contact with people of other ethnicities or religions. There were a few Muslim students at school, but they were very westernized, and I never got to see what Islam really was. After high school, I lived like a typical British teenager, going out clubbing, drinking, and just having fun. Looking back, I see it was a time without real purpose or direction. My journey towards Islam began in 2005 when I started working at a call center. Many of my colleagues were Pakistani Muslims, and they were nothing like the stereotypes I had believed. They became my best friends, and for the first time, I felt true friendship, a caring, respectful connection. There was a group of us, Seema, Shakila, Talib, Nabil, Atif, and me. We do normal things together, like going to the cinema or out for meals. What stood out most to me was their respectful behavior and self-respect. For example, they wouldn't come clubbing with me or drink alcohol, which was a big part of my social life. They also declined my birthday invitations, which confused me at first. Slowly, their mannerisms and values introduced me to Ramadan. I remember a profound moment during Ramadan in the call center. My friend Seema handed me a box of spring rolls made by her mother and offered them to me as they were about to break their fast. I had been eating and drinking all day in front of them, and yet they offered me their food. It was such a touching moment. I became curious. Why were they starving themselves and sharing their food with me? Who were these Muslims, and what was Islam? I began asking questions, wanting to understand their faith, their kindness, and their values. What shocked me was their humility and honesty. They didn't just say, just believe or have faith. They backed everything up with evidence from the Quran, Hadith, and Sunnah. When they didn't know an answer, they admitted it and went to find out. I couldn't deny the truth I was seeing. Islam wasn't what I had thought. It was a complete way of life, with spiritual, social, legal, and economic guidance. But accepting Islam meant a huge change in my life, and I wasn't sure I could fully commit. So I decided to try it out, a trial period. I started with small changes, no haram meat. I was already a vegetarian, so that was easy. No alcohol, no clubbing, and dressing more modestly. Slowly, I overcame those hurdles, but I was still apprehensive about fully committing. It felt like a lifetime commitment, and I worried about how my family would react. Every Sunday, my mom would pick me up from work, and I'd try to tell her, but I never managed. It became a week after week torment. But I wanted to fully embrace Islam during Ramadan, so a few weeks before, I finally told her. Alhamdulillah, she accepted it without a big discussion, which was a relief. I took my Shahada at Glasgow Central Mosque with my friends, tears of joy streaming down our faces. The Imam asked me questions to make sure I understood what I was committing to, and after, we prayed the Jamu'ah prayer. I was nervous, sometimes forgetting the words, but it was a very emotional, beautiful experience. In 2009, I officially reverted to Islam and changed my name to Maya, which has more personal meaning for me. My journey wasn't without challenges, especially when I started wearing hijab. I loved my hair and was hesitant to cover it. But through education and understanding that hijab is a form of protection and respect in Islam, I embraced it. When I told my mom, she was upset and cried, calling it oppression. It was a painful moment for me, too. I felt overwhelmed and called my Islamic teacher, Zara, in tears. She comforted me, reminding me that Allah never gives us tests we cannot bear. Her support gave me strength to continue. When I graduated, I wore my hijab and graduation gown. My family was shocked, but accepted it. My grandfather didn't say much but showed his support in his own way by giving me my grandmother's scarves. Now I feel peace and contentment through Islam. It has given me purpose, guidance, and a better relationship with my family. It has made my life complete, replacing my past, chasing after material things with a true sense of fulfillment. Islam means everything to me. It's my whole life. It's given me comfort in knowing that Allah exists, that I can worship and obey Him, and that I'm doing the right thing. I no longer live by my own moral compass, but by God's guidance. Without Islam, I wouldn't have met my husband, who is Muslim, and I am grateful every day for the journey that led me here.